Ready to unravel some mysteries. We're taking a deep dive into the world of Scorpio today.
Oh, exciting.
Using Mari Silva's book, Scorpio, The Ultimate Guide to an Amazing Zodiac Sign in Astrology,
I like it.
as our guide. So let's, really try to uncover what makes this sign tick.
Oh.
You ready to dive in?
Absolutely. I think we'll find there's a lot more to Scorpios than, that initial mysterious first impression.
Well, then let's start by unpacking that core personality, right?
Right.
The book really emphasizes their passion, their determination, and actually links that to not one, but two ruling planets, Mars and Pluto.
Yep.
Which makes you wonder what kind of cosmic cocktail that creates.
It's a fascinating combination because in astrology, Mars is that planet of action and raw drive, while Pluto governs those processes of transformation and rebirth. Death and rebirth.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they're constantly being fueled by this inner fire, this inner intensity to evolve and become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, it's potent. And I mean, it kind of explains that whole phoenix rising from the ashes vibe that, kind of surrounds Scorpios.
Right.
But at the same time, they're known for being quite reserved.
Yes.
So how does that square with all this inner intensity?
Well, Silva actually describes it as this intriguing paradox.
Okay.
She uses the analogy of a fortress that's guarding a treasure.
Okay.
So while they possess these deep wells of emotion, they're incredibly selective about who they let into that inner sanctum.
Yeah.
And it all ties back to this really crucial need for trust, which the book emphasizes again and again.
Right, because even early on, the book mentions how devastating betrayal is for a Scorpio.
Exactly.
That's a deal breaker.
But to betray a Scorpio is to violate that sacred trust that they've offered,
Right.
And they have this knack for sensing those things, almost like they have this innate radar for authenticity.
Wow.
It's almost like they can see right through people's facades.
Yeah, it's that Pluto influence again, right?
Exactly.
Like peering into the hidden depths.
Exactly.
Does the book give any examples of, how this perceptiveness actually plays out in a Scorpio's life?
Yeah, there's this really compelling scenario where Silva describes a Scorpio manager who's, in the midst of this really complex negotiation.
Okay.
And they're able to not only read between the lines, but anticipate everyone's motivations and ultimately strike a deal that really benefits their entire team.
They sound like formidable strategists.
Well, absolutely.
But I do have to imagine, though, that even when channeled productively, all this intensity, it can be a lot to handle.
Absolutely. And that's actually why Silva really emphasizes the importance of self-mastery for Scorpios. It's not about suppressing their passionate nature, but rather learning to channel those emotions constructively.
So instead of being swept away by the current, they're learning to, navigate the waters.
Precisely. They have this incredible drive to understand themselves and the world around them. They're not passive participants in life. They are active seekers of knowledge.
I like that.
And growth, always striving to evolve, to transform, to become the most authentic versions of themselves.
And that transformative energy, it seems to really permeate every aspect of their lives, right? Their relationships, their careers. It's like they bring that intensity to everything they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But with that intensity comes an incredible capacity for connection.
Yeah.
And speaking of connections, let's delve into how Scorpios navigate the very complex world of relationships. So when it comes to Scorpios and relationships, I think it's important to remember they don't just, dip their toes in the water.
Right.
They dive headfirst into the depths.
They strike me as the type who would much rather have, a few really profound connections than a wide circle of casual acquaintances.
Absolutely.
Would you say that's accurate?
100%.
Okay.
As Silva points out, Scorpios crave authenticity.
Okay.
A real meeting of minds and souls. They're not interested in superficial interactions.
Right.
They want to connect on a deeper, more meaningful level.
Yeah, it's that Plutonian urge for, transformation again, right?
Exactly.
They're looking for connections that challenge them to grow.
Precisely. They want relationships that ignite their passions, that push their boundaries, and ultimately help them evolve into the best versions of themselves.
Okay.
And this is especially true when we talk about their closest friendships.
So tell me about those friendships.
Okay.
Are we talking ride or die loyalty?
You could say that.
Okay.
Silva describes these bonds as,
Yeah.
fiercely loyal.
Okay.
And incredibly resilient, often lasting a lifetime.
Wow.
But it's important to note that Scorpios are very discerning about who earns that trust.
Right.
They would much rather have a small, tight-knit circle
Right.
than a large group of people that they can't fully be themselves around.
It sounds like once you're in that inner circle, though,
Yes.
you're in for life.
You're in.
These are the friends who've seen them at their best and their worst and have stuck by their side through thick and thin.
Exactly. And that level of unwavering loyalty
Yeah.
is something that Scorpios not only deeply value, but they reciprocate it in kind.
Okay, so we've got the loyalty, we've got the depth. What about romance?
Yes.
How does all of this Scorpio intensity play out in the realm of love?
Well, let's just say
Okay.
that if you're looking for a passionate, all-consuming kind of love, a Scorpio might just be your soulmate.
Okay.
But be prepared for a relationship that is anything but boring.
I imagine they bring that signature intensity to every aspect of their romantic relationships, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Silva actually describes Scorpios as incredibly passionate and devoted partners. They're not afraid to really dive deep into the waters of love and explore every facet of that connection, both the light and the shadow.
So speaking of shadow, those darker emotions that we often associate with Scorpio, like jealousy, possessiveness,
Right.
are those just stereotypes or is there some truth to them?
Well, I think it's important to remember that those emotions often stem from that very deep-seated need for security and authenticity.
Okay.
Scorpios love deeply.
Right.
And with that love comes a very, very fierce protectiveness of their hearts.
It's almost as if they, erect those fortress walls around their hearts to prevent anyone from shattering them.
Precisely. They have been known to guard their hearts very closely.
Right.
Especially after experiencing, betrayal or hurt. But the book emphasizes that.
Okay.
This guardedness isn't insurmountable.
Okay.
It just means that earning a Scorpio's trust and affection is a privilege reserved for those who are willing to go the distance.
So how can a Scorpio, I guess, learn to balance those intense emotions with the vulnerability that's required to have a healthy, thriving relationship?
Well, communication is key.
Okay.
Silva stresses the importance of open and honest dialogue, where both partners feel safe expressing, their needs, their fears, learning to communicate those deeper emotions constructively rather than letting them fester and erupt.
Right.
Can make all the difference.
It's interesting because while they might have this reputation for being, somewhat guarded, the book also highlights their potential to be incredibly healing presences in relationship.
Absolutely.
Really?
They have this innate ability to see through those facades and really get to the heart of the matter. Yeah. Which can be incredibly transformative for their partners.
It's like they can sense those hidden wounds and insecurities and help their loved ones work through them.
Exactly. They can be incredibly supportive and nurturing partners, really encouraging growth and self-discovery in those that they love.
Yeah.
But again, it all comes back to trust. That's the foundation upon which all successful relationships with Scorpios are built.
It sounds like navigating the complex world of a Scorpio requires vulnerability, authenticity, and unwavering trust.
Yes, Toy.
But for those who rise to the challenge, they're rewarded with a depth of connection that's truly exceptional.
Precisely. And this depth extends beyond their personal relationships.
Okay.
Scorpios bring that same passion and intensity to their professional lives as well.
Okay, so let's talk careers.
Okay.
Are we talking like ruthless CEOs, laser-focused surgeons? What are we picturing here?
It's less about a specific profession and more about their drive to make a meaningful impact.
Okay.
Scorpios are drawn to fields where they can really utilize, their sharp minds, their determination, their innate ability to affect change.
So they're not afraid of a challenge.
No.
In fact, they might even thrive in those high-pressure environments.
Absolutely.
That would completely overwhelm other people.
Exactly. Silva emphasizes that Scorpios are not easily deterred by obstacles.
Okay.
They actually view challenges as opportunities for growth.
Wow.
And they use their resourcefulness and their strategic thinking to really overcome them.
So what, specific fields are we talking about here?
Sure.
Does the book mention any, dream careers for a Scorpio?
Yeah, she mentions that Scorpios excel in fields that require investigation, problem solving, and a touch of, fearlessness.
Okay.
So think detectives, surgeons.
Interesting.
Even investigative journalists.
Makes sense.
They have a knack for uncovering hidden truths, and they're not afraid to kind of dive into those depths to get to the bottom of things.
But with their, like, independent nature, I imagine teamwork might not always be their strong suit.
That's a very valid point, and Silva does address that.
Okay.
She acknowledges that Scorpios can sometimes struggle with, delegating tasks or relying on others.
Right.
But she also emphasizes that
Okay.
this doesn't mean that they can't thrive in collaborative settings.
Okay.
It's just about finding that balance between their need for autonomy and the value of teamwork.
So learning to trust their colleagues and recognize that everyone brings valuable skills to the table.
Exactly.
It's about channeling that intensity into, like, productive collaboration.
Precisely. And when Scorpios do find that balance, their focus and their drive can elevate an entire team to new heights.
I bet.
But ultimately, for a Scorpio, it's about finding work that really aligns with their values and allows them to make a real difference in the world.
Which brings us back to that Phoenix analogy, doesn't it?
It does.
They're not content with just going through the motions.
Right.
They want their work to have a transformative impact.
Yes.
Both on themselves and on others.
Precisely.
Okay.
And actually, Silva dedicates an entire section of the book.
Does she really?
To exploring this whole concept of transformation.
Wow.
In the Scorpio experience.
Okay.
She calls it Unveiling the Transformative Power of Scorpio.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
It sounds dramatic, but incredibly fitting.
Yes.
Scorpios are not afraid to embrace change, are they?
Not at all. In fact, they see change as an essential part of life, a catalyst for growth and evolution.
So it's not just about weathering the storms of life, it's about learning to dance in the rain.
Beautifully put. They understand that life is full of these cycles of death and rebirth.
Right.
And they're not afraid to surrender to that process.
So how does this concept of transformation actually play out in a Scorpio's life?
Okay.
Are we talking about, like, constant upheaval?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's more about their approach to life's inevitable changes for a Scorpio.
Yeah.
Those moments of change or loss or heartbreak, they aren't seen as failures, but rather as opportunities for profound transformation.
Can you give me, like, a concrete example? What might this look like in a real-world scenario?
Sure. Imagine a Scorpio
who's been in, a long-term relationship that's no longer serving them.
Right.
Rather than clinging to the familiar.
Right.
They might make the difficult decision to walk away, knowing that this ending is actually paving the way for something new and fulfilling to emerge.
It's like they have this innate ability to rise from the ashes of those experiences stronger and wiser than before.
Exactly. And Silva really emphasizes that this process of letting go of relationships, of old beliefs, even past versions of themselves.
Wow.
Is absolutely crucial for Scorpios to fully step into their power.
It's about releasing what no longer serves them.
Yes.
To make space for the person they're meant to become.
Precisely. And this transformative energy isn't just limited to their own personal journey.
It often extends to those around them as well.
Really?
Yeah, Scorpios have a way of inspiring growth and change in others.
Interesting.
Often by challenging them to confront their own shadows and embrace their authentic selves.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about their own personal transformations. They're like catalysts.
Yes.
Triggering growth and change in the people that they allow into their lives.
Precisely. Their intensity can be a bit much for some.
Right.
But for those who are ready to delve into those deeper waters, a relationship with a Scorpio can be incredibly enriching.
Wow.
And transformative.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the depths of their personalities to the intricacies of their relationships and careers.
Yeah.
But it seems like all roads kind of lead back to this central theme of transformation.
It's true.
It makes you wonder if this constant evolution is part of a larger spiritual journey for them.
That's a brilliant observation.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's all connected. Silva actually dedicates a significant portion of the book to exploring the spiritual side of Scorpios.
Wow.
And it's incredibly insightful.
I am ready to dive in. Let's explore those spiritual depths of Scorpio in the next part of our deep dive. Okay, so we're back, ready to dive into the deep end of Scorpio's spiritual side.
Right.
I'm curious, what makes their journey so unique?
Well, I think for Scorpios, spirituality isn't about dogma or blind faith.
Right.
It's about really confronting those big questions, those existential questions head on.
Yeah, they strike me as like natural truth seekers. They want to understand the why behind everything.
Yes.
Not just accept things at face value.
Exactly. And that drive for truth, it extends to their own, inner landscapes as well.
Okay.
Silva emphasizes that Scorpios are on this quest for self-discovery, peeling back the layers of their own psyches to really understand the core of who they truly are.
So it sounds like shadow work is a big part of their spiritual journey, right?
Absolutely.
Confronting those darker aspects of themselves that other people might shy away from.
You hit the nail on the head. Scorpios have this very unique ability to, really sit with discomfort.
Wow.
To explore those shadowy corners of their own being without shying away from what they find.
Right.
And through that process of, really confronting their shadows, they actually access tremendous personal power.
That makes sense. Like they befriend their darkness instead of trying to outrun it.
Exactly.
But the book also really emphasizes the importance of trust for Scorpios.
Yes.
So how does that tie into their spiritual development?
Well, trust is huge for Scorpios. I mean, remember those fortress walls that we talked about?
Right.
Well, those walls aren't just there to keep other people out.
Okay.
They're also protecting a heart that's, incredibly sensitive and capable of profound depth of feeling.
Yeah.
So any betrayals that they've experienced might make it even harder to kind of open themselves up to that spiritual side, which, often requires a certain level of surrender and vulnerability.
Yeah. So it's like they have to lower the drawbridge to really let that spiritual growth in.
Exactly. And that's why Silva really stresses that learning to trust both themselves and others is an absolutely essential lesson for Scorpios on their spiritual path.
Okay.
It's about finding that delicate balance between, guarding their hearts and allowing themselves to be vulnerable enough to really experience the depth of connection that they crave.
Are there any specific practices or approaches that Silva recommends for Scorpios who are, looking to maybe deepen their spirituality?
Yeah, she really emphasizes the power of introspection.
Oh, okay.
Scorpios are naturally introspective, but she encourages them to create space for dedicated self-reflection, whether it's through journaling, meditation, simply spending time in nature, quieting the mind and tuning into their intuition is key.
It's about accessing that inner wisdom.
Yes.
That deep well of knowing that kind of resides within them.
Precisely. And she also talks about the importance of, embracing vulnerability as a strength.
Yeah.
Learning to forgive themselves and others. And really finding that balance between their light and shadow selves.
It's interesting, because we often hear about striving for the light.
Right.
But Scorpios, they seem to understand that there's wisdom and power in acknowledging the darkness as well.
Absolutely. And that's really what makes their spiritual journey so compelling.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to explore those depths.
Right.
To really embrace the full spectrum of human experience.
Right.
And it's through that process of confronting their shadow selves that they're able to access such profound levels of transformation and growth.
So it's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole.
Exactly. And that journey of becoming whole, of integrating their light and shadow, their passion and their peace.
Yeah.
That's what ultimately leads them to this deeper understanding of themselves and their place in the universe.
This has been incredibly insightful, but we haven't talked about Mars and Pluto in a while.
Yeah.
What role do Scorpio's ruling planets actually play in all of this?
Yeah, those cosmic influences, they play a huge role in shaping Scorpio's spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Remember, Mars is that fiery planet of action and drive. And Silva links that Martian energy to Scorpio's unwavering determination on their spiritual quest.
Okay.
They're not passive observers.
Right.
They're active seekers.
They're not afraid to put in the work.
No.
To really delve into those deep, existential questions.
Exactly. They bring that same Martian intensity to their spiritual practices.
Oh.
And then there's Pluto, the planet of, transformation, death, and rebirth.
Right.
The Plutonian energy is all about, exploring those hidden depths, uncovering the truth that lies beneath the surface.
It's that ability to dive deep into their own psyches, confront their shadows, that emerge transformed.
Precisely. And Silva actually suggests that this connection to Pluto gives Scorpios this very deep understanding of life's cyclical nature. They understand that endings are just beginnings in disguise.
Right.
And they're not afraid to surrender to that process of transformation.
It's almost as if they have this intuitive knowing that through those periods of darkness and introspection,
right,
they're actually being prepared for something greater on the other side.
You got it. And that actually brings us to another important point, their intuition.
Okay.
Scorpios tend to be very, very deeply intuitive, often picking up on things that other people just completely miss.
Okay.
They have this almost uncanny ability to sense energy, to read between the lines,
right,
and to just know things on this really gut level.
It's that sixth sense that we often hear about.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Silva really believes that this intuition is such a powerful tool for Scorpios on their spiritual journey. She encourages them to trust those gut feelings, those flashes of insight that often kind of guide them towards their highest path.
That's incredible. So we've covered, their personalities, their relationships, their careers, their spirituality.
That's a lot.
It's amazing how all of these threads, they kind of weave together to create this tapestry of the Scorpio experience. It's really fascinating.
It is.
Is there anything else that Silva highlights in the book that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, she leaves readers with this really powerful reminder that Scorpios are complex beings, full of contradictions and surprises.
Yeah.
But beneath that intensity, that sometimes intimidating exterior, lies this incredible depth of feeling, a capacity for incredible loyalty and love.
Right.
And this yearning for connection that's truly exceptional.
They're not just intense, they're deeply feeling individuals who bring, so much to the table.
Absolutely.
They're passionate lovers, loyal friends, and insightful seekers of truth.
100%.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that, Scorpio's intensity, while it might be daunting to some, is actually a gift. It's a source of their power, their depth, and their incredible capacity for growth and transformation.
Absolutely.
It's about appreciating the full spectrum of who they are.
Yes.
The light and the shadow, the intensity, the vulnerability.
I love that.
Yeah.
100%. And recognizing that those seeming contradictions are what make them so captivating, so intriguing, and ultimately so very human.
What a beautiful note to end on.
It really is.
This deep dive into Scorpio, the ultimate guide to an amazing zodiac sign in astrology, has been enlightening.
It has.
Thank you so much for joining me on this journey.
My pleasure. It was a fascinating exploration.
And for our listeners, whether you're a Scorpio yourself or simply fascinated by this complex sign, we hope this deep dive has given you a deeper understanding and appreciation for the Scorpion of the zodiac.
Absolutely.
Until next time, this has been The Deep Dive.